Welcome, everybody. I'm very glad to see so many people here. I'm Julia Barrett. I am a general manager at Oktana, where we focus on Salesforce development. We've been lucky to grow Oktana to more than 300 people through organic growth. But having previously worked at Salesforce, I know that to grow more intentionally through sales efforts, the tools we choose to enable our sales team matter more than ever. According to Salesforce's most recent State of Sales report, 64% of salespeople believe the complexity of products and services has made their sales process even more difficult. Only 53% of those sales reps meet or exceed their quotas. So, what if we were able to leverage AI and automation to streamline the sales process and boost a team's efficiency? That's exactly where Coverage IQ comes in. And today we're going to dive deep into their innovative Salesforce AppExchange app that we built for them to help you optimize the time your team spends selling. So here's a quick rundown of what we're going to cover today. First, we'll go over the common challenges faced by sales teams and how Coverage IQ has revolutionized this sales prospecting process. Next, we'll jump into a live demo presented by Coverage IQ, showcasing the app's capabilities. Then we'll spend a little time with one of our developers who built Coverage IQ and share a little bit of what he learned and unveil the three key considerations when building a solution for the Salesforce AppExchange. It's a little bit different than any other kind of development. So, of course, we'll leave time at the end for questions. So think of them as people are talking. Don't make it awkward at the end and force me to make up questions, because I will. So without much further ado, I will introduce Mark from Coverage IQ, who will take it from here.
All right, great. Thanks, Julie. I really appreciate the introduction. So my name is Mark Hartley, and I'm one of the co-founders of Coverage IQ. I've been in enterprise sales in both individual contributor IC roles as well as leadership positions in large publicly traded companies, Microsoft, Oracle, Salesforce, and as well as really tour of duty in startup land. And I'm very happy to be here today to discuss what we've built in partnership with Oktana, which is a sales intelligence and engagement platform that leads to more engagement, more opportunities with enterprise customers, more revenue, and more success. So we're excited to have built this in partnership with Oktana, and very excited to be telling you more about it. So there we go. So the premise of what we've done, and really kind of some of the challenges I faced in managing teams in my career is enterprise sales engagement is broken. We've all been there before as far as a new role, a new territory, really a lack of pipeline, or the monster deal that you've been working on for quite some time just went sideways. And so really you've got to get out there and put on your hard hat and effectively engage clients on what your solution does. And it's difficult. This is a required effort. It's time consuming. Nobody really gets up on Monday morning and says, gosh, I'm so excited. I get to cold call and send out cold emails all day. It's just a challenging proposition. When I was at Oracle way back when, our management team used to say, put a mirror in your cube. So when you're smiling and dialing and sending out emails, you can smile, and so you're going to have a better attitude. So really rudimentary ways in which you can produce, you can improve productivity. And the enterprise sales engagement model is cumbersome, really not integrated. Most enterprise sellers don't make use of the gold mine of information about companies, such as a 10K, a 10Q, investor earnings calls, to create engagement and valuable research. Somebody was telling me is enterprise buyers don't buy from sellers because they know their solution really well. They buy from sellers who know them really well. So you really got to get to know your prospects and clients in order to be truly effective. And so I'm going to tell you about how the problem of manual research, manual analysis, disjointed workflow was addressed and solved over 40 years ago with a very famous financial services firm or a technology firm, and somebody I think we all know, and how we're going to reuse key components of what they've done in our solution for Coverage IQ. Go to the next one. So we all know who Michael Bloomberg is. He was the mayor of New York. He ran for president. I checked the other day, and his current net worth is $106 billion, one of the richest people on earth. Bloomberg News, and really where he got his start was in 1982 with the Bloomberg terminal. And this drastically changed stock trading in Wall Street. So in the pre-1982, financial professionals faced a really daunting challenge: how to access and analyze market data, which was really slow and cumbersome and error prone. And then, financial, professionals relied on physical documents, really newspapers, company reports, financial statements to gather data around, market data around where to make important investment decisions on behalf of their clients. Enter Michael Bloomberg and his team, and they recognize these inefficiencies, and they set out to create a solution that would, really make a huge difference. And so in 1982, this was launched, and it's never been the same. Bloomberg absolutely dominates this space, and because it provides consolidated real-time financial data, news, analytics, communication, all of these things to empower users to make really informed decisions swiftly and accurately. And then it's a really indispensable tool for financial services firms and investment firms and traders worldwide. It's very expensive. It's $35,000 a year, I think, the last time I checked. And so we believe that disjointed, cumbersome type of approach is evident in enterprise sales. We want to use some of the key learnings. What we've done is created some of the key learnings in our product. And jump to the next slide. So today's enterprise sellers really face similar challenges. Getting information about clients and prospects is cumbersome and challenging and inefficient. Use a myriad of tools, to find the right prospects, research their challenges and objectives, customize the message, correlate value, create a compelling call to action for further engagement. So really successful people who have been doing it for a long time know how to do this, but know how time consuming it is. Like traders, financial services folks pre-1982, sellers today use all these different tools, and they oftentimes sellers suffer from short attention span theater, and so they don't complete the message. They'll do some research and then get distracted on something else. And so we set out to create one workflow, which bridged all of these different tools that they might use: content management applications, email, Salesforce or other CRM tools, Zoom Info, Apollo, sales cadence applications are the usual suspects in what's typically used. With Coverage IQ, what we do is we are able to assemble company and market research and put it at sellers' fingertips to put into one workflow. People have asked us why we put our application in Salesforce, which is unlike many of these other tools that I had mentioned. We do this because Salesforce does a great job of messaging, managing deals, and workflow. What Salesforce lacks is specific customer data that's useful and as part of a workflow, such as 10Ks, 10Qs, earnings call announcements, M&A activity, product announcements, etc. They don't include those in those workflows that are really vital to create, the important sales messages that you want to use. So successful salespeople use 10Ks, use 10Qs and earnings calls, and then do a ton of research. And then what we want to do is use those best practices and bring them over to everybody who uses this. So, what's the impact of disjointed sales engagement? Low revenue, missing quota, poor win rates, low customer acquisition costs. I've read recently that the average tenure of a startup CRO is 17 months. At one point recently, that was about 26 months. So that's going down. So we want to be able to address that as much as we can and make people more successful. And then, we automate. So as a result, we're automating these key processes. And and most difficult steps of research. And enterprise seller productivity goes up, top of the funnel pipeline goes up, really gathering knowledge about the customers really goes up. You hire AEs because they can close and connect with customers. So we made engagement easier so sellers can do what they do best and close deal. We automate the job components that are most painful, which is the research and the message creation. So since the effort to prospect effectively into all of your accounts is cut drastically and you're more efficient, you have more time to perform these upstream activities and engage with your clients more efficiently. And then really providing context, know your customers, research and personalization. What does your prospect do? Who's your customer's customer? Enablement, really practicing what the same messages are over and over again. And then quality. Research, personalization, context, and correlation of value, really the four legs of the stool of great sales engagement. And so that's what we're really setting out to do.
Hi, everyone. My name is William Chicote Miller. I'm a software developer with Oktana. I served as team lead and solution architect for phase 1 of the Coverage IQ project. I learned a lot about the process for developing an app for the Salesforce AppExchange and wanted to share some of the considerations to keep in mind when you're developing for AppExchange that helped me along the way. So the first point I want to bring up is that when you're developing for AppExchange, you are developing for a very diverse customer base. And what I mean by that is that since your app is listed on Salesforce's kind of own version of an app store, companies of almost any size or type will be able to install your app. And since this app is going to be installed on a pre-existing org, you have to think about how your app is going to impact their org. For example, if you made a change to like a standard object like contacts or accounts by adding a new field, let's say, then when that customer installs the app on your org, you could potentially have like hundreds or thousands of account records with a blank field in it, which could be a problem. So that's something to take into consideration. Another thing you want to keep in mind is how your customer are already using Salesforce on a day-to-day basis. With Coverage IQ, we had kind of two main user types in mind that would be using the app. We had marketing users that generate value statements, and then we had the sales users that are using the main sales app. And based on those user types, you kind of want to create profiles and permission sets that give them specific access based on how that user is going to be using the app. And this is important from not only like a conceptual user flow standpoint, but also from a security perspective as well. And I'll touch on that a bit later, the security aspect. Another thing that you want to do is make installation and configuration and maintenance of your app as easy as possible. The customers downloading and installing your app, they may only have one guy on their admin team, just one Salesforce administrator. So you want to make that guy's job as easy as possible, because that's a pretty big factor in when companies are deciding whether or not to download your app, is how easy it is to install and maintain. So that's definitely something that you want to keep in mind. Moving on to the second slide, let's take a second to talk about security and how to make your app secure. So Salesforce has really strict security requirements, which is a good thing. And they're going to require you to do multiple different scans from multiple different scanners to submit to AppExchange. I would recommend installing Salesforce Code Analyzer and Apex PMD early on. Those are both extensions for Visual Studio Code, which if you develop with Salesforce, you use Visual Studio Code all the time. And what they do is kind of in real time analyze your code and tell you if you're violating any security practices, and it'll also tell you like the threat level and link to Salesforce documentation on like best ways to fix it. Along with that, you want to be continuously checking the security of your app. And by that, I mean regularly running security scans on your code. This isn't something that you necessarily have to do every day, but maybe once a week is probably good. And also just be sure in code review with your developers to bring up security and make sure that they're also following best security practices. And as you develop for AppExchange, you want to consider security implications. So like when developing a new feature, you kind of want to ask yourself questions like, could this feature be used maliciously? And linking back earlier to like the profiles and permission sets, like could this user use the permissions that they're given to access data that they shouldn't be looking at? So that's things that you want to think of as you're developing an app for AppExchange in security. And finally, I just wanted to briefly go over documentation. Salesforce needs lots and lots of documentation to submit to AppExchange. And the earlier you start putting it together, the better. It's lots of technical documentation, like component descriptions and class and method descriptions and all that kind of thing. These are documents that you should probably already be working on, but doubly so for when developing for AppExchange. And the earlier you start, the better. If you have a BA on your project, this is great work for them. And as you go through the project, you can continuously update it and add things as things change and requirements change. That way, at the end of the project, you kind of have it all ready and ready to submit. And I think that just about covers it. Developing for AppExchange requires you to take some extra steps and time during development, but in the end, you get a quality product that's secure to install, which I think is probably the best part of it. So thanks for taking the time to listen to me speak, and I'm going to pass it off to Julia now.
Hey guys. So we have a couple questions, I guess, to get started. I think the first one is, well, I guess for either of you, Mark and Chakote, but is there a history of the prompts and answers for the Gen AI search bar?
So right now we are in, that was one of the key things we wanted to deliver MVP, +1, version 1. So we are going to be rolling that out relatively soon. To say, here are recommended questions. And then as you're asking those questions, those are documented in front of you. It's part of the workflow. And so what we're doing right now is suggesting questions for cut and paste into that, but we're going to be delivering that pretty soon. It's a good question.
It looks like we have two questions that are kind of overlapping. So I think at the core of it, does Coverage IQ kind of pull together prospecting lists if you define targets?
So what we're doing right now is we're gonna work off of your account list in Salesforce, and then functionality that we're rolling out, we're developing right now is if you've got 100 accounts, and just using this as an example, if you're a supply chain optimization company, or and you look for companies that may have mentioned they've got supply chain challenges, then we're going to go out and find those, let's say you've got 1,000 companies that you're targeting. It's going to go out and search all of those companies, all of their high value events, the 10Ks, the 10Qs, earnings calls, M&A activity, product announcements, et cetera. And then we're going to pull that information and then re-rank your accounts to be able to show that. Actually, I've got a slide that I can show you right here, which is going to do that. Whoops, sorry, one too many. So right here, we're going to re-rank accounts according to, dynamically according to, what you're looking for. If you're selling or not an application which helps with employee onboarding, we're going to look at employee counts. If we're selling an application that helps with net revenue retention and we're going to look for net retention revenue for you. So your sellers aren't going to miss opportunities to engage accounts.
Very good. I know we're at time here, but I think we probably covered this in the same question. So this is something that you would use in addition to something like Apollo or Zoom Info, based on your lists that are in Salesforce.
Mm-hmm. We augment your current account list, and we'll go out and find information. Right now, we're more geared towards publicly traded companies, but over the summer, we're going to be rolling out functionality to target more industries, those mid-sized companies later on. But really, our focus right now is on publicly traded companies. I think there's 4,000 or something that exist out there. So there's a big total addressable market that we can tap into. Good.
Well, I will leave it at that. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure Coverage IQ would be excited for you to keep an eye open on the AppExchange for its launch. We'll also announce it when it is released. So feel free to follow Oktana on LinkedIn too, and you'll hear about all of the developments with Coverage IQ. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.